Jim, lately, in the things that we've offered in Mastering Alchemy Light and also in the advanced webinar, we've been talking about the female energetics and the female wave of light that's coming through and affecting all of us and the planet. So what I'd like to do is just a kind of a series of morning conversations focusing on this, focusing on the female creative energy and the masculine and how they work together or don't work together.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So these waves of light that are coming in are really beginning to affect everybody, and you're going to see different responses, not from a 3D basis, male body, female body only. There's a whole transformation going on. But you've had a whole numbers of experiences with regard to female and masculine, and why don't we talk about that from...
Well, I saw 2 interviews on television, and one was Megan Kelly, and she was telling her story about the conflict at work. And one of the things that she said was that she didn't have the power to say no. She was afraid of losing her job. So she just let this continue for years. And it got me thinking. And then the other interview I saw was with the woman who played the elf on Hobbit, and I don't remember her name. But she was saying through some movie she was in, she recognized a gender bias within herself against the director who was a woman. And this was a huge aha for her. And so within a couple days I saw those 2 interviews, and it got me thinking, where in my life was I hassled or harassed? And also, where in me do I have gender bias? And so I recognized there were 3 times in my life, and those are the only 3 that I remember. There may have been others. I was just not aware of them. But the first time, I remember I was traveling alone in Egypt and staying at a house where there was a community bathroom. And so I'm in the shower, and this man walks into the shower. And my response was automatic. It wasn't, and it didn't come from a place of victim. I immediately screamed profanities at him, and he wasn't obviously expecting that. He was probably expecting a weak woman. And he just left, and I never saw him again. And then the other time was just a few years ago, where you and I were in Colorado filming, and you were teaching a class, and I had just been on stage, and I did my thing, and I came off the stage, and this man came up to me, and I don't remember his question, but I remember what his question did to my body. He asked me some sexist question, and I was so shocked. My expression probably said a lot, and it's like I couldn't talk, because here we're in this spiritual community, and he behaves that way. So what I said to him was, you have to go ask Jim that question. And I think my response was so clear that later, minutes later, he came up to me and he apologized. And then this last time was, I was in another country, and this man over several days was creating conversations around sex. And it just felt worse and worse and yuckier in my body. And, you know, I wanted to be polite. I didn't know the culture. And I finally said, "Are you flirting with me?" And he just backpedaled. And oh, no, and he had to show me all the pictures of his wife and kids. So those are the times that I was hassled in some way. And then the times where I'm noticing there's a gender bias in me is with you. So I don't even have a thought of, I'm going to fix the toilet. I'm just assuming that you're going to fix the toilet or paint the house or mow the lawn in the back. And I don't like that.
Well, you know, all these things are historically accepted practices. Not right practices, but historically accepted. And it really relates to a lot of what we're talking about. I mean, this goes all the way back to the fall of consciousness, and a lot of the stories we're beginning to talk about in terms of the masculine and the feminine roles. But this is all historical. What is beginning to come to the surface is it's not okay. So the female body represented, being is really starting to say, no, it's taking power, and very appropriately. These big waves of light are very empowering to create a balance. And so you're watching this, and over the years you've been watching women taking positions in that whole glass ceiling and pushing against it. It's still in that space of transition where women are beginning to move into their place. The flip side is, to a great extent, men are completely ignorant of what you're saying. It's not that they don't care. Their habit is such that this is just how it is. And so to a male, sometimes, like the man who said the comment in the conference in Colorado, he was just speaking something. It wasn't hitting on you. It was how guys do things. And I'm watching that in a male point of view, that they don't know what other alternative they have.
Well, are they not thinking before they're talking?
No, they don't think before they talk. Now, there's a whole other aspect of this. Let's do this kind of in a whole series over the next couple weeks, talking about this. But in this context, one of the things that I've kind of watched in terms of male-female is the whole side of it that is sexually oriented. And men are ignorant. Now, there's that drive that says sex, but you watch guys and they basically don't say hello to your eyes, they say hello to your breasts.
Right.
And so there's a whole lot we can talk about that. But is that something that they're intending to do? Because in growing up, listening to guys talk all the time in that context, they don't even realize they just did that. If you said to the guy, well, what did that woman look like? And he was a minute ago just completely all over her body, he can't tell you. And in fact, he doesn't even remember he just did that. And so I'm not making that okay in any way. I'm just simply saying that's the unconsciousness that's built into the historical venue. That's all being transformed right now, wonderfully so. But it's an awkwardness, just like the transition you're watching in politics and all those kind of things.
So the thing that's inside men that cause that hassling behavior, it's not conscious, it's programming, and it's been done in this patriarchal society for years. And so it's gotten to where it's not even seen by the men.
Right. So the piece, though, that's important here in this conversation is two things that the women begin to recognize that as clearly not okay, but an unconscious set of experiences that, when spoken to, causes an upsetness in the man, not so much in, no, I'm going to keep doing this, as I don't know what to do with what you're saying. Now, I'm not defending men here in any way, shape, or form, but the nature of the female beginning to recognize the power that you have in basically owning your space. Again, this goes back to Mastering Alchemy, defining those words of certain and capable and seniority, all allow a person to begin to hold the presence and then say, like that man. Now, you could have done it from the one who was kind of hitting on you.
The sex conversations.
Yeah. In a way, a lot of times the challenge is, and I've watched this with many women, is I don't know what to do and I'm threatened. To a great extent, the guy may be moving in that direction, but a lot of times you could have said from a fearful place, blurting it out, are you hitting on me? And in that case, the guy backs away. Or from a powerful place, you could smile and say, are you flirting with me? He's going to back down again. So one is from a fearful place, one is from a place of presence and power. And this aspect of women beginning to recognize the amount of power they have by saying something not from an angry place, but simply a question. But it's from that presence that begins to
Well,
be.
this is a thought I had today of, so what is it in the men that causes that behavior? It's the patriarchal, it's the programming. What is in the women that causes that behavior? And it's the same, it's the other side of the coin of the culture. And so the thought I had was, and let me know what you think, that men do that to women because they see a level in power in women that they're threatened by or don't know what to do with.
Well, that's beginning to be more the case.
Yeah.
Because their general, this is how it is no longer this is how it is. And so they don't know what to do, and in that space where anybody gets threatened, there's a reactionary nature. So now when you teach the female classes that you teach, one of the things that I always watch that's really valuable in those classes is basically creating that sense of presence and power in the woman, but not from that reactionary space. Now,
Yeah.
that's new, because in the game as it's been constructed, the woman has been on the, it's been dominated and she's been suppressed.
Yeah.
And I don't have permission. And you can look across the spectrum right now and you can see the nature of women in the United States and Europe and all over the world stepping up and beginning to own the power. But you can also look into the Middle East and see that state that has been for thousands of years, where the woman is simply has a minimal role, and usually it's around childbirth.
Yeah.
And other than that, you're not worth anything. And that's really challenging to get out of. So you've got this whole spectrum. And in the spectrum, you can't apply good and bad, or gee, this woman's being powerful, and how come those Egyptian women or Middle Eastern women aren't doing that? It's iterations of assisting each one in the place that they are.
Well, and I remember in the 70s, the reaction of women was either fully back away and not participate and be the weak victim, or push against. And what I'm watching with these waves of light is it's neither of those now. It's coming from a place of that centered, grounded, me telling this man, are you flirting with me? Rather than not saying anything or coming from an angry place.
So really the key to what we're talking about is this third dimensional good, bad, right, wrong, top, bottom, dominant, submissive, suppressed kind of reality. You can't be successful in playing either or.
Right.
And so the real piece here is what we're really interested in kind of expressing in the work, the classes that you teach help this out a lot, is basically how do you step out of the duality?
Yeah.
And so in the place where women can begin to have a sense of their presence, their sense of their seniority, their sense of their own dignity and respect at this higher kind of fifth dimensional level of this is who I am, that space allows you to confront the man who's moving closer and closer, even though he's tentative about it, and he's just playing, he's just being friendly, and all of a sudden he finds himself in an opportunity. And whether it was intended or not, that's a consequence. A lot of times that happens when a woman can't have that sense of presence in herself. So it's in the reactionary nature of too much or too little that's the game. That's the third dimensional game. So when that sense of presence and seniority happen, you have choices. A person has choices, male or female. And in those choices, you can diffuse a situation, you can confront a situation, you can redirect a situation, but you can't do it from weakness or, I'm not sure, third dimensional game.
And you can't do it from the push against angry, I'm going to get you.
You can't do it.
No.
That's the duality. So it's really this sense of presence and seniority and really owning yourself, allowing the other person to be where they are, and yet keeping them in their place if it's too close or too in appropriate.
And doing it from a place, and doing it from that place of presence, I notice doesn't embarrass them.
Correct.
It doesn't shock them, or they don't put up walls. He has an out.
Yeah.
He can say, oh no, I'm not flirting with you. Let me show you pictures of my wife and kids.
Yeah.
And so that, doing it that way doesn't hurt his feelings, and therefore down the line, the ripple effect, he's not going to push against somebody else.
Right. Now, as that woman has more sense of presence, it's an interesting thing, because a lot of the ones that would, the unconscious male game we're talking about, that really falls away. Then it steps into another strata, and now take Megyn Kelly. So here's this, you know, very intelligent, very capable woman with a presence that is worldwide. You know, I mean, she's a celebrity, and here she is in the same level. But you're watching people like her and the other women that were at Fox News basically say enough, and you're seeing the arrogance at the highest level in that male, I can do anything I want, arrogance, power, control, beginning to topple Bill O'Reilly and Bill Ailes, and or I think that was Ailes, the owner of Fox News, or you're watching these huge icons fall because of their absolute dominant, arrogant ignorance. And that's really empowering. And so I think you're going to see more of this.
Yeah.
So let's take this next week to another level and talk about how it physically affects women in that situation when that male energy starts to get into the body.
Yeah, and I also want to talk about gender bias.
Yeah, and let's talk something about these transgenders, people and children particularly, because it's a spiritual event. It's really about spiritual. It's not so much about bodies. But we'll do that next week.
Time.